All right, just a moment. All righty. So welcome again, everyone, to our grant workshop for FY26 Color the Curb School Safety Program. For those of you that aren't familiar, Color the Curb School Safety Program is a collaborative design and placemaking project that is a partnership between the DC Commission on Arts and Humanities, CAH. We speak a lot in acronyms, so this may help as I move forward and speak in the acronym. The District Department of Transportation, DDOT, and DCPS, DC's public school system. And the main aim of this program is to increase pedestrian safety outside or near these schools by painting ground murals in curb extensions. In our current RFA, we are seeking mural artists that have the prior large scale exterior mural painting experience. This is very important. And a combination experience of youth engagement in some of these projects to design and install ground murals in curb extensions around 4 schools. And this year, our schools are in wards 2, 4, and 7. The selected artists will be paired with one of the 4 schools, and then you will work closely with the faculty and the staff at that school to create the mural design. In this program, students do not paint the murals. That is only to the grantee artists. Students are only involved in the design, but they don't actually paint, given the sites are in the street. So we don't have students painting in this. And this is one of our past years. Sorry. This is artwork by Joel Bergner outside of Brightwood Elementary School, The Fantastical Creatures of Brightwood, just to give you an idea of some of our past works. So the goals for this program, outside of increasing the pedestrian safety and children's safe routes to school, is to design artwork that will contribute to making the students' commute safer and more vibrant, to install that artwork that supports a slower and safer roadways in the blocks adjacent to the selected schools, to engage students in the creative and design process, and to have an impact on their sense of stewardship in their community, and ultimately to add to DC's mural landscape and public art canvas with unique works that are made and inspired by local youth from our schools. This is another past Color the Curb mural by Charles Jean-Pierre at Minor Elementary School called Clawing to the Top, Bear Country. So this just gives you a sense of the different styles that we look for and the different unique shapes of each of these curb extensions. So the eligibility for this application, it's really important to pay attention to this eligibility before you actually start your application. If you were an artist awarded in the previous cycle, so that would be FY25, you are not eligible to apply for the next year. This opportunity is only open to DC residents aged 18 or older. You must have a permanent DC address for at least a year, and the addresses on all of the documents that you submit must match as well and be in DC. Be in good standing with CAH, have the right experience of large-scale exterior mural projects and community engagement involved in those projects. This is another past mural from FY24 outside of Whittier Elementary by Shawnee Shee and Ann Gill called Express Yourself. This application is not open to organizations, which is what this list essentially is. So if you're, these are the non-eligible applicants. This is only open to individual artists and artist teams, not organizations. There is a background check involved, not in the application, but if for some reason you don't believe you would be able to pass this level of background check with DCPS, then you may not meet the eligibility of the application. But selected artists go through DCPS's background check at the level of a volunteer, supervised volunteer. So you do fingerprinting, and then there's an online course involved in that background check. And this is because the selected artist goes into the classroom, into the school to work with the students. So they have to pass DCPS's background check. I'll pause for a second if there are any questions. Just come off mute if you have a question. Okay, not hearing any, I'll keep moving forward. So these are our proposed sites for FY26. 4 schools, 3 elementary schools and 1 high school. Garrison Elementary, which is in Ward 2, Dorothy Height Elementary in Ward 4, and nearby is Theodore Roosevelt High School in Ward 4, and then Kimball Elementary School in Ward 7 by Fort DuPont Park. So it's important that as an applicant, you do not connect or make contact with the schools about Color the Curb. The school communication is handled through DCPS Arts. And there is an opportunity in the application for you to indicate if there's a school that you have, a prior connection to or preference for. But we ask that in the application phase, you do not contact the school. And also be aware as an artist that sometimes these locations are subject to change, or they may experience construction, interruptions, or damage before, after, during installation. We just want to put that out there so that as an artist, you need to sort of be open to potential changes to this site that you might get assigned to. So something to think about before applying. So the
Hey,
next couple of oh yes,
Deirdre,
sorry.
we just had a quick question in the chat. I wanted to flag it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
If you don't live in DC, can you work with somebody who does? Is the question.
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, as an artist team, the lead artist, the artist who does the application, has to be a DC resident, but your team members can be from outside of the district. So you would have to find an artist based in DC to apply with. So for these are the next few slides are the aerial design view of the sites, just to give you an idea of the approximate size, just so you're familiar with what you may take on if you're awarded this grant. So this is outside of Garrison Elementary School, on S Street and 12th Street, and then on Vermont Avenue near 11th Street in Northwest in the Shaw neighborhood. This is Dorothy Height Elementary in Petworth on Allison Street, 13th and Allison. And then the next cluster is at 14th and Arkansas Avenue Northwest. So both designs, both intersections would be given to one grantee. This is around the corner at Roosevelt High School on 13th and Upshur. And then the second intersection outside on the other side of the school around Iowa Avenue and Georgia Avenue. And then our last site, Kimball Elementary in Ward 7, is off of Minnesota Avenue. So this is curb extension and a sort of like a closed off plaza area. And there's a capital bike share rack in this location that would need to be kept open during installation. But this is near Fort DuPont Park in Ward 7. So getting into the grant application process. Is there another question? I think I see something else in the chat.
Nope, not at the moment.
Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned, this application is a test of CH's new grant portal, Submittable. Those of you that apply for art opportunities may be familiar with Submittable, and we are making a change as an agency to move from our previous grant platform, application platform to Submittable. So Color the Curb is lucky to be a test for that program. So just to make sure that you are logging on to Submittable and not the previous grant application portal when you're looking to apply. So before you start your application, make sure you read the RFA guidelines really thoroughly, determine your eligibility, whether or not you are eligible for the opportunity. You will log into the grant portal and start the application. Make sure that you're selecting the right program. There are two tests going on right now, so make sure you select Color the Curb, complete the application in its fullness, check all of your uploads to make sure that they work, and make sure that you submit the application before the deadline, which is Monday, January 12th at 9 p.m. And once you submit, you will get a confirmation email. Something that is different about Submittable is that the application does automatically close at the time of the deadline. Our previous portal may sometimes go a few minutes over, so just be really aware if you're applying right on the deadline day that you get it in before 9 p.m. Okay, so you can find the link to our Submittable on the DC Arts website. Go to the Color the Curb page, and the link for Submittable will be right there on the landing page. And also, you can find the RFA in a PDF file and other links for more resources, my contact information, all the quick details you need to know about the application. And before, these are just some tips we have mostly for your work samples before you apply to make sure that you test their functionality, that they're in the right format. We prefer a JPEG or a PNG file, that your work samples are reflecting your most relevant experience for this request, and that everything's labeled correctly for our panelists. So this is the homepage for Submittable. When you scroll to the bottom, you will see the link to apply for FY26 Color the Curb. Once you click apply, it will prompt you to either log in or sign up. If you are a previous user of Submittable, you can sign up with your login. If you've not used Submittable yet, you will have to create a login here. It will then take you to the application. So just make sure that you are in FY26 Color the Curb School Safety Program. There are a few sections. The first is the overview. This is where you fill in the details. On Submittable, below each section, if there's a gray sort of subtitle, that is the information that you should type in to that space. So where it says project name is FY26 Color the Curb School Safety Program. You can select if you're applying as an individual or a team. If you select team, it will prompt you to add in your team members' names. The project begin and end date, those are the dates of our fiscal year, not necessarily the exact date that you start the project, but for the fiscal year 26. So that beginning date is October 1 of 2025 and the end date September 30th of 2026. Moving on to the request details. These are very important narrative answers. You put in your artist statement, paying attention to the questions where it asks you to have your experience with large-scale exterior mural work and your approach to youth engagement or community-based projects. Second would be your alignment. So how, your experience is relevant to this particular program and especially your work with community engagement. And then here's also, as I mentioned, that optional line to add in the school that you may want to be matched with. Next would be the applicant details, profile details. This is your name, your address, your ward, all of that information. And this will continue on. It's all on one page on Submittable. That's different than our other portal where you kind of advance one section at a time. Submittable is one continuous page. So if you're looking to save your draft as you go on, you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to save. It doesn't automatically save, I don't think, as you're, and it won't prompt you like each section. It's all the way at the bottom. Your work samples. So in Submittable, there's a few things that are different. First, you to provide a statement for how your work samples are, best represent your experience and your qualifications for this particular program. You upload the work sample file. If you're applying as an individual, you can upload 5. If you're applying as an artist team, you can upload up to 10. So below the work sample upload is the image identification table. Here is where instead of uploading a separate image identification list, like in previous applications or in our other portal, here there's a table where you just plug in all the information. And then below that would explain the community engagement portion of this work sample. And this is really the most important information that our panel review will look at to score your application. So you want to be as detailed as possible here for each work sample. And then the additional document uploads outside of your work sample, we ask for the artist resume and CV, for your professional references. And then we have a section for support materials. This is not a requirement, but it's strongly encouraged. If you have a full letter of recommendation, if there's been any media coverage or write-ups on past projects that you've done, anything that you feel would be relevant to your application that is not just a work sample, you would upload it in the support material section. And then the last section is for compliance documents. These are requirements for all CAH grant applications. And if you need a template or a fillable form for these, that's available on our website on the grant resources page. So we ask you to upload a W-9 that is the March 2024 version. And again, these are all linked on our website. You need your certificate of clean hands. That should be dated within 30 days of when you submit the application. Now we're asking for a quote from an insurance policy. This is not something that you should, pay for or acquire, but just to reach out to local insurance companies and see what their quote would be for a year's worth of general liability insurance. Statement of certification. Again, this is, you can find that PDF on our website. And then the artist copyright form. Copyright and design lies with the artist. So we just ask that you fill that form out too for your application. And then, as I mentioned, all the way at the bottom, you can either save your draft if you want to come back to it. Maybe you're just filling in, your name and some other stuff, and you want to save the draft. Or if you reviewed everything works, all the documents are in the right file type and everything's filled in, and you're ready to apply, you would hit apply here at the end. I will quickly go through, or are there any questions about Submittable? Okay, great. So the next couple slides are the review criteria that our panel will use to look over your application. Every grant program at CH is decided by a panel review. So before the panel sees it, I review all the applications for their eligibility and their completeness. Then they get advanced to the panel. You'll be scored on the following categories, and these are the different weights that they hold. Artistic content being the largest at 40%. This is where your work samples are extremely relevant to show that we're looking for exterior, so that means outdoor mural experience. You want to see if the murals you've worked on are similar size, similar budget. You want it to show really you have the capacity. That's another category to do this grant. Community engagement impact, 30%. So this is, based on the work samples and your experience, your practice as an artist. Do you work with diverse communities? How are community members involved? What was the level of community engagement? That's what they'll score here. Opportunity and equity, 20% through your work and your practice, what opportunities were created for the community. And then lastly, capacity and sustainability. So this is really looking at the budget, the size, everything, all those details about your previous work samples, and do they match the same that's required for Color the Curb, so that the panel can see that you've had, experience with similar size budgets or similar square footage or sites. And so you would be able to have the capacity to do Color the Curb. Okay. Any questions on that? And if you think of something later, you can always email me or call. And if you'd like to set up a appointment to review your application, or if you have more in-depth questions, we can do a 30-minute Teams call. And I also encourage you to look at DDOT's public space activation website, just look at past Color the Curb murals, read through some of the descriptions, see who the artists are, just to familiarize yourself with the program if you have not already. Okay. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ashley. This is her mural from this year, FY25. Colores que conversan, colors that converse, outside of Columbia Heights Education Campus off of 16th Street. It's very vibrant and beautiful.
Thank you for that intro, Deirdre. I'm excited to talk to everyone about my experience with Color the Curb. This past year was my second year doing the program. And so I kind of have like a different surface area orientations that I've worked with. So I'll touch on that later when I talk about design. Trying to see the first slide.
Let me pull that up for you. Okay, can you see that?
It's like loading, so I think. But okay. So I kind of just wanted to talk about I'd done a handful of asphalt mural projects previously, but it was more so I was part of a painting assistant cohort, a mural painters cohort. So I wasn't running the project. I wasn't handling the insurance specifically and all that sort of stuff. So when I first applied in 2023, I was like a little intimidated just because there's so many technical aspects. Like obviously there's a lot of logistical and process aspects of any mural, but specifically asphalt. Because again, I hadn't been involved with previous prep of the surface or any of that. I was just there to come to the site and paint. So I just say that because I wouldn't let that discourage anyone from applying in any way if that's a thing. because CAH and DDOT and DCPS, everyone is so supportive in this process. And there are so many resources from so many different entities that you're very much supported in this. So I just want to encourage anyone who might feel a little intimidated by such a large scale technical mural that there are tons of resources. So don't be intimidated. Uh, so this picture right here is just the surface area of the last mural I did prior to any prep or anything like that, just like the raw ground. Could we have the next slide? Oh yeah. So this was like the surface area, and I kind of just wanted to talk about composition, and like how to navigate the ground mural composition. This year I got like one long noodle shaped asphalt area just right outside of the entrance to the school and where the school buses pull up and all that sort of stuff. And so that was like really cool because in the previous year I did like one of the intersections that has disjointed areas, and that could be a little more challenging to design for just because you really the best way to design for this mural is definitely like just constantly keeping at the front of your mind how people are gonna, like just walking the space next to your mural. How are pedestrians gonna intake this? It's likely like with this composition and this asphalt mural space that's on the screen, the no one will ever be able to see the entire mural at once unless they had an aerial view. So taking that into consideration can be a little challenging because you know that maybe someone will only see like 1 second as they're walking by. So like if people are only getting one glimpse of a long linear narrative of the mural composition, then like how can I make that one glance, that one moment, how can I still make it beautiful? How can it still be like readable? How can it maintain its readability visually despite wear? And, these asphalt murals get so much contact versus a wall after you install them. So thinking about just really reverse engineering that thing. I also did a lot of prep by photographing any color the curb or asphalt mural I would encounter, like going on walks and all this sort of stuff. And just to see how different colors wear, contrast is super important. Contrast, whether it's like a value thing, like it's black and white, or it's more like a color theory, like a contrasting color, that really is the a key element in designing this and making it readable, and getting into too much visual nuance on asphalt is really not the best. I would say typically not the best use of time in this. Could we have the next slide? So this is just an image of my the design I was working with and playing with and trying to think about it again, the composition from this view of like, okay, this is going to be perceived in chunks. Like maybe someone will follow the whole mural and follow along, but it's likely people will just get moments where they, see the mural and can kind of take it in. Could we have the next slide? So this is just an image of starting to paint after pressure washing and priming the surface. And again, like working a really great part of this mural opportunity is that there's so many contractors. You can work with such great people, like just by recommendation of people that are currently in the program or have done it before or CAH or what have you, as far as like hiring a professional pressure washer and handling that. And then also there are some great vendor contacts specifically for the type of paint and material that is used for these murals. So those are, again, resources that you will have access to in this grant it's not like you have to start from scratch. Like these, if anything else, you could reach out to me and I would happily let you pick your brain or let you pick my brain or what have you. Can we have the next slide? And then this is just some more images of my mural as I was painting it. You can see there's these diagonal white thermoplastic safety lines throughout my mural. And so you do have to take that visual. They are somewhat visual if that's you can also integrate them into your design if you'd like, which I think is a really interesting idea. Can we have the next slide? Oh yeah, and then some things I think the best part of this whole grant program is definitely the in-class sessions with students. This is the first year I did it, it really intimidated me. And so I didn't get to engage as much as I wanted. I also think my background check took a little longer than anticipated because there were a lot of things going on. And so I actually had to send a substitute in to work with a substitute teacher to send her into the class. And then in the middle of those sessions, then I got my background check back. But so this year I got to work directly with the students during the summer program. And it was like we ended up focusing on printmaking, which was kind of like something that the students were just interested in and was relevant and seemed like something that we could all engage in. But it was also like through that activity, I could really talk to the kids about the mural process in like a casual way, and we could relate different things we were doing with printmaking into the design process for the mural. So this is the potato carvings we made. Can I have the next slide? And then we ended up at the end of the week, because I did some additional classroom sessions because it made sense. It was summer, and the kids were just so amazing to work with. And so we were able to carve lino blocks, and each student was able to print a t-shirt and like take it home with fabric ink, which was really cool. So, oh yeah, next slide, sorry. So like it was difficult to take the ideas from the students that we directly worked on or discussed in the class sessions and put those in the mural, unfortunately. It's either visually really complicated imagery that just doesn't work on asphalt, or it was too symbols where they just weren't quite I don't know how to say it. Maybe like polarizing. Like there's certain things you can't do on the ground murals. You can't have text. You can't, for safety reasons and stuff like that. So I would just encourage you to take inspiration from the students in the class sessions, and or if you want to take direct imagery and incorporate that into your mural, that's amazing. But also just thinking about like your interaction with the students in the in-class sessions and what you guys work on, and sort of taking the spirit of that interaction and imbuing it in the mural. So I'm just say that because like I think the students' expectation during the in-class sessions was that everything was going to be very literal. So like mitigating that a little bit for students during the in-class sessions, I think is useful so that the school can feel real ownership. And I don't know if there are any more slides. No. But yeah, that was pretty much all of my notes. But oh, and then one more note I will give is that I think it's important for anyone in public art to remember that you're in the public, and that can lead to so many positive experiences. But just also to keep in mind that sometimes when you're working in the public, and I definitely feel this a lot, as that murals tend to be a male dominated industry or world, and as a femme presenting person, just there can be some interesting interactions with people in public who you're in public. So um just like a little side note that I think it's always important with murals to kind of go through some strategic exercises in your head beforehand to think about, okay, like let's say um, someone's maybe having a mental breakdown in public or something like that, and they're kind of bothering you because you're working on a public thing, and then one of your assistants spills something, and then it's just it can be such a you can't control the weather, you can't there's cars, there's school, all these things happening around you. So I just think it's important to go through game plans, or I always find it helpful to me. Um, yeah, just to be like prepared, and then like also to be a good steward for anyone that you are hiring as well.
Thank you, Ashley. I feel like that's great insight, especially on how to take the classroom engagement and put that into your design. Sometimes people do go super literal with, whatever characters or things that students may draw during the engagement. But I think you make a good point that, you can either be inspired by it and then, do it in your own style because it is your mural, or, put in little bits and pieces there. And also great just about, sort of conduct and safety while installing. We do have a safety measures guide that the artists receive. There are ways to set up your site, while you're painting. And then also, of course, just personal safety and interactions because as you're saying, you are out in the public, and usually in the street. Some things we've experienced is that certain neighborhoods may have construction projects, going on that neighbors may not be too happy about. And sometimes when someone shows up, they may get confused and want to know, what entity you're with, who do you represent? And so just having the confidence and, of course, the backing of the partners to say, I'm doing a mural here. And then usually people are extremely excited because everyone loves a mural in their community. So the roadway and is a very sort of, there's a lot of people that have authorities there. And just know that as a Color the Curb artist, you are permitted and covered, and we want everyone to be safe and comfortable. We have one question, and what is the best way to get in touch with you following this meeting? Ashley, yeah.
Me?
Mhm.
Oh, I am Ashley J. Williams at gmail.com. It's my full government name, my full middle name. And then same on like Instagram and if you want to DM me. Email is probably gonna get a quicker response. But yeah, I would love to. Or if anyone, yeah, I'm happy to have that my email shared if that's useful. I guess I could put it in the chat, yeah.
Yeah, Ted just dropped
Oh, thank you.
Ashley's in the chat. So yeah, if we have any questions, I see one hand raised. If you want to come off mute and ask questions for Ashley or questions for myself or Ted in the last 15 minutes of our workshop.
I had a question. Hi, I'm Yetunde, and I think I missed a little bit at the very beginning of you speaking about your work, Ashley, but so if I'm repeating anything, I apologize. But I was wondering when you were working with contractors or a team, I guess I had a few questions. One was how many people did you kind of end up working with in order to execute the full mural? And then how many days did it take for you to do that? And then my third one, in regards to students, was leading into the collaborative process. Like, was there prompts or kind of how did you set up that space to engage students and lead them into like designing?
Yeah. The first CTC mural I did in 2023, I hired two full-time. I applied with two of my friends who are muralists, but they were like both full-time teachers. So it was kind of I was handling everything, and then but I think we spent like 2 full weeks being outside. It was in the summer, so like I can be in the sun all day, but like a lot of people can't. So they were probably like 5 hour days. I really don't push assistants past six because everyone's fried by 6 hours. Your productivity just goes down and down. Um, but yeah, that was about like 2 weeks of 5 hour days. There was setup and stuff, and with two people, and we were all newer to asphalt murals. This time, I hired one assistant for 5 days, um, and then one other assistant for one additional day. And so I did a lot of the painting myself. Um, I could have expedited that quite a bit by hiring more assistants, but I think that too, for me, was like, fine, as much as I could manage at least. And then as far as like engaging the students, and getting them into the design process, and how did I kind of, uh, I guess like I just reversed engineered like a mad woman, um, like the printmaking process, because the students at first, I came in and I kind of showed them some photos and I talked about being a public artist and what that looks like, and then we ended up just drawing a lot. And then I kind of realized that like the students, I was just going to have to go home after each in class session with the students and really like go through my little lesson plan notes that I'd reverse engineered and be like, okay, what worked? What did they respond to? Like, oh, I don't spend 30 minutes doing this because like it's going to take the whole time. And it's so I just talked to them a lot. I also had such a good interaction with everyone at the school that um, I came in for additional sessions. I think I was in there for like 2 weeks. Um, so at that point, I was just like, okay, how can I, we could do so much in 2 weeks from potatoes to t-shirts. Um, and then it was like, I just didn't want to, a big part of it too was like not getting the students' hopes up in this way that they were going to see exactly what they'd done in the classroom on the ground. So it was kind of like, yeah, it was just very organic, and basically just kind of like leaning into anything the students enjoyed or anything they could get into some flow, and then us just chatting. Their attention spans um, are affected by technology. So I think, yeah. And then the teaching assistant, you can work so much with them, and like they have definitely like formatted documents to really like think through that stuff. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess for the 2 weeks, were you there like every day? Oh, you said it was a summer program, but were you there like daily? Because I was also curious about how many sessions people typically have with students and kind of how they structure that in terms of leading into the actual mural design process. But
Yeah, I think the grant itself called for like two in-class sessions, but I just felt like such a me personally, I'm such a softie. I just felt I did so many summer programs as a child. I like was just like, well, I'll just stay for all the sessions today. So it was like 5 sessions each day, and I think I did 4 days each week. Um, and Yeah, I mean, in the previous in the first time I did the grant and where I couldn't be in the classroom, I know the substitute did like cutting out construction paper shapes and kind of making a collage. And so she and I were able to figure out a way for her to talk to the students about like adding an additive process of designing a mural, and thinking through like, okay, just trying to remind them like people are going to see this looking down, and like I created a lot of templates for the students where it was outlined in the shape of the mural space. Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, and you just to add on, you do have the support of the teacher. So you're paired with a teacher, a classroom teacher. It can sometimes be, like the fourth grade teacher or it's the art teacher. DCPS Arts handles that match. So you can rely on that teacher as well to help craft the student engagement. Um, Jada Blue, I see your hand up as well.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my name is Winston. I'm an artist from DC. Thank you guys for your presentation. My question was honestly kind of similar to your Tune Days, asking about the timeline of how long the meal actually took or how much time we had. So I have another question as well. What previous activation or what previous mirror for this?
Could you ask that again? It kind of broke up.
Oh, no. I said, what opportunity, like what previous opportunity do you feel like prepared you for this meal?
Oh God, I definitely like worked a lot as a painting assistant for other muralists for like many years. I think like it's yeah, it's hard to, or I remember it being finding it difficult to like push past like assisting other people to a point of like, okay, now I can get my own projects. I don't have to be, I can. So I had, oh gosh, so many restaurants, little restaurants, um, little community centers and stuff. Also, what did I do that was, yeah, I would just say assisting other muralists on larger scale projects and then using that in my portfolio, to like, but then being very explicit. I used to be very humble in how I would talk about that experience. And so I think taking more ownership and really like pushing what I did in those. But yeah, I don't really know. It was tricky. I mean, CAH has been a huge part of that, like breaking that ceiling for me.
Thank you.
Hmm.
And we have a comment in the chat from artist Dania. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that right, at yahoo.com. Just saying that, they have experience as a muralist and teacher working with students. So they're looking for someone within DC. They do not live in DC to pair with. So yes, please, follow up with each other, reach out to each other. As Ashley mentioned, this is a mural that you will need assistance and help with. So even if you do not apply together, it might be helpful to know other, artists locally who you may be able to hire to help you, or if you want to work on a grantee's project as well. I'll say that if you have not done a ground mural specifically, that is okay for this program, because we do sort of help you make that transition from concrete walls or brick walls to asphalt. So that's okay to have as your experience. And if you have assisted on other murals before and you want to use that for your work samples, just be really explicit in that detailed table, saying, which sections you helped with or what your level of assistance was on that mural, so that panelists know just what they're looking at when they see a mural. You can say, helped from design to installation, or, the lower right section, I painted on my own, something like that. So if, people apply with a lot of varied experience, and ground muraling is still, sort of a new territory. So it's okay if you've not done one before. It helps, of course, but if you just have more traditional outdoor mural experience, that's completely acceptable. And so still encourage you to apply. Are there any other questions?
Sorry, I had one last one, but I didn't want to say it before if someone else has a question before me, but
No,
it was just,
please.
it was about scaling. I guess for Ashley, like what did you show us both of the murals you did or just the most recent?
Just the most recent, yeah.
Okay, because I know you talked about like readability and composition, or sorry, contrast, but yeah, I was curious in terms of doing ground murals, what is the best method that you found? I guess it'll vary from artist to artist, but in terms of scaling artwork on something of that size and length, and also if you find it, because I feel like your mural had more like free form shapes, so if you kind
Mhm.
of find it easier to just go into it freely and just having a general sense of like where things are placed.
Yeah, I mean, with the honestly, I think a really cool thing that I haven't even tried yet on an asphalt mural is like treating it like kind of like not like an optical illusion, but I do think it's one of those instances where like sometimes um just using creating something that's like visually delightful, it really reads. Or like you know, creating kind of like a Trump Loy image in the space, like not necessarily hitting all the four corners of that rectangle, but like, leaving some negative space, I think is kind of interesting. Or it's like, be, just because, I mean, seeing some of the other examples of muralists who have done all this beautiful gradation and all this nuance, like that's amazing. um but I just find personally that it's on the ground, it gets lost so quickly. So I think it like, I mean, I think I have playing with these ideas of like a sticker sheet and like, or like kind of surreal things like if all the kids are talking about how they love the sloppy joes all the time, maybe like making a big sloppy joe with all the things from the school coming, stuff like that. I find it a lot easier to be abstract. Also, like there's definitely even in this mural, there was a scenario where DDOT had to do some very necessary groundwork with Pepco. Um, at one point, a safety issue on the mural surface. So at one point, I thought I'd have to shorten the mural a little bit too. And so having a fluid design, because it could be a normal logistical hiccup working on such a large scale project, or it could be something like you get to a point on your mural and the asphalt is like terrible in that one area. You have to be, I think it's good to design something that can get approved and everyone's on board, but then can be a little more fluid where any changes that need to or pivots that need to be made aren't going to be very jarring to everyone. Um, so I find it easier to do like a less narrative, like a linear narrative sort of composition and just, yeah, do something more abstract and playful personally.
That's great. And just a reminder too that this application is only asking for your past work experience and not a design for the curb extension. So just so we don't want anyone to work, unnecessarily without having the grant and the funds. So just to keep that in mind. Um, in your application phase. It's just on your past work examples, but it is really important to just start thinking about like, because it's there's these, strange sort of shapes and it's a different surface. And so it's really important to think about that. But just, we don't want to require work from people without um, them being paid. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have time for one last question. Mark, your hand is up.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. Um, I wanted to because hey, Tunde, I'm a fan. Um, fair warning, for all the artists, especially the new ones. A lot of time DDOT has pikes in the areas that our work is going to be made. And so, like Ashley said, keeping things kind of loose and not so narrative driven is very important because you might run into something that will disrupt your design very quickly. Whether it's disrupting your design or just being disruptive to the execution process. And it gets hot outside. The asphalt is typically somewhere between 20 degrees hotter than the atmosphere. And if you're leaning down on that, how much detail and design work will you be able to achieve under those circumstances? It's just something to think about. So I would encourage everybody to stay loose and work with the kids and keep things kind of broad or very tight in terms of the design aspect. That was all. I'm gonna let everybody go.
That's great
Oh,
advice.
I do have one more question, Deidre.
Yeah.
Will there be extended training after the applicants are for the finalists?
Yeah, so we
Okay.
have this year we don't have the technical assistant. So in previous years, we've had a technical assistant, Chelsea Soronin. She is one of the founders of Chalk Riot, which is a local ground mural company and chalk company, and she has led helping people to learn the tips of the trade. She made a lot of amazing videos and a best practices booklet. So we have that going. And then hopefully, a lot of the times we have, as you're aware, sometimes repeat artists, and they can be willing to also help with the technical aspect for those that might be newer to asphalt murals. So we try our best to make sure everyone is supported in that way. Also, getting recommendations on supplies. We usually promote Street Bond or recommend Street Bond, but not every artist use that. It's not a requirement. So there's different types of paint that you could use for asphalt. So we have those recommendations too, but we don't have technical advisor role this year. Okay, and Day also put in the chat that if anyone needs help with their application, they're willing to assist too. I love, the community building that we're doing in this workshop. I think locally the mural community is extremely collaborative, and I see a lot of people helping. We've had a lot of people go from assistant or helper or hired day painter on a Color the Curb to a grantee themselves, which is what we really like to see. And so I just want to wrap it up again. We're a few minutes over, but that's expected, and we're having a great conversation. So those of you that are still here, thank you again for attending this workshop. Thank you, Ashley, for just, relaying your experience and your expertise. I think that as much as I can, explain the program and the process, it really helps to hear from the grantee and from the artist and get those tips and secrets. That's really, really great. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for everyone that asked questions and those that are volunteering to help each other. If you think of something else, you can reach out to me, reach out to Ashley. We have one more workshop in January before the application closes. The deadline again is Monday, January 12th. There's a few weeks between the deadline and then the notifications. So usually by I think mid-March, you would hear back on the status of your application. And then we work as quickly as we can to get the grantees into the schools, starting their student engagement so that you can have the summer and really, yeah, just the summer to paint. So all the murals need to be done by the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. But again, thank you and happy holidays, everyone. And if you sign up again, I will see you next year. Otherwise, best of luck with your applications. And everyone enjoy the rest of their day. Thank you.
Thank you.
See y'all.